Hello, it's your boy Dre, and I'm here with Vin again.
Curmudgeons in crime again.
Wow. So, let's get right to it. As the name implies, this is going to be a little bit of a beginner's guide for people who don't play arcade games. So you go on there, you see literally hundreds of Arcade Archives games, and you're like, what the fuck? Right?
He's not joking. Hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. I mean, can you imagine how intimidating this is for the uninitiated?
I mean, it would be a lot to take in all at once, scrolling down the eShop or the PlayStation Store or your store of choice, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of material out there, and we want to distill it down just a little bit. Obviously, we can't cover everything, but we're going to give you some recommendations. I know this is going to make you sound like a prick, but I think by the time I finish what I'm saying, you guys will understand what I mean. I really don't like when people ask me, what should I buy? Because it's not because I don't want to help people. It's because I have no idea what to say. There's literally hundreds of games out there.
We don't know your taste, basically. So it's really hard to, give blanket suggestions if, we don't know your taste.
So in that case, we're going to try to give some really good recommendations here that pretty much anybody can enjoy, any age, any skill level as well, on Arcade Archives. So we're gonna try to avoid the really obvious stuff, like you should play Pac-Man or something.
Have you heard of Pac-Man?
Have you heard of Pac-Man before? We're not going to insult your intelligence that way, but we're going to cover some well-known classics, believe you me, and we're going to get into some obscure stuff too that you may have never heard of that all fit under this umbrella of you want a good arcade game to play. Here it is. Here's your recommendation.
Yeah, accessible games, even the obscure ones, made sure that they're easy to learn and not overly intimidating.
Yeah, because usually when we get on here and talk arcade games, it's just the two of us jokers just going deep into, God knows whatever our fancy is. We're not going to do that today. We're going to keep it pretty surface level. If you don't play arcade games, this is going to be for you. And even if you do, we're still giving you recommendations, right? You may have heard of the popular stuff. You still may have not have heard of the obscure stuff. Hopefully there's something here for everybody. So a couple notes here before we begin. You're probably going to see, if you look at Arcade Archive games on any shop, you're going to see a subset of games called ACA Neo Geo. I'm sure anyone out there knows what a Neo Geo is if you're listening to this. That's an entirely separate category of games. We're not going to cover Neo Geo games. We're just going to be talking about Arcade Archives.
Yeah, it would be a whole separate podcast if we try to go into that. But if you are interested in ACA Neo Geo, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We will do that too.
We'll be more than happy to cover that.
Another thing, Arcade Archive games are $7.99 each. Sometimes they go on sale, very occasionally, not very often, but for the most part, expect to pay $8 a pop for these. Pretty cheap, very reasonable. There are a lot of compilations out there nowadays, especially from Konami, one of the companies you're going to cover here. Actually, let's do that. Just to keep this really easy, we're just going to cover games from 3 companies here. Those companies would be Konami, Irem, and Namco. We're not going to cover the whole breadth of their libraries, obviously. We're just going to give you some recommendations from those. If we do this again, which we probably will, we can do Nintendo, we can do Jalico, we can do a lot of other stuff. But for now, just to keep the recommendations nice and tight, we're just going to keep it to Konami, Irem, and Namco. I don't know how we decided on those.
Yeah, I mean, they are well-renowned developers, so you can't really pick a game that's a stinker, but we still tried to choose games within these 3 companies that can be enjoyed by anybody.
So there's a lot of compilations out there featuring some of the games we may talk about here, and so while we're focusing on Arcade Archives for the purposes of this podcast, go ahead and look, if you hear about something and you see it's on some arcade compilation or something, go ahead and go for it. that's fine. It would just take too long to cover every compilation in the world here. So we're just going to keep it strictly to Arcade Archives. If you see it elsewhere on a pack, go for it.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about before we give our recommendations, one more thing. Let's talk about the options real quick that you could see here, because these can also be a little daunting for people who don't know what's up.
Yeah, Arcade Archives are feature rich. You can fine tune the controls, the game settings, and even how they look and sound. You don't like have to like mess with the stuff if you don't want to, but there are some nice quality of life things. For instance, you can enable rapid fire on any of the buttons, so you don't have to like mash if you don't want to, because we all know how much you love mashing.
I hate button mashing. That's one thing. People out there, if you're intimidated by like playing a shmup and just like pounding on the buttons, that's not your favorite thing. Guess who hates it? Me. I turn on rapid fire on everything.
Yeah, so hold it down if you want to, no problem. And yeah, yeah, so there's more game option things you can mess around with. The dip switches are present, so like in original arcade boards would have like literal switches on the board that you can move to like configure the game options. Again, this is really finicky. You don't have to like do this stuff, but it's there if you want to.
You can't, in some cases you might want to though, because some of these dip switches control the amount of lives you start with, or the difficulty of the game even. That's something that's really hard to add to like arcade games after the fact, because you have to go back and reprogram. So if the original arcade game had a setting for difficulty or lives or how many points you have to get to earn an extra life, all that kind of stuff, it will be present in the options of the Arcade Archives game that you buy.
Yeah, they're super comprehensive with these releases. Another feature is that you can pick different versions of the games, so like from different regions. For instance, some games will feature like the Japanese version, the North American version, the European one. In some more granular cases, they might even say like old or new, but for the most part, you really don't have to like worry about this stuff unless we tell you.
I can't imagine any game where it says old version or new version where you'd have to, I tell somebody to play one or the, I can't even think of an example, honestly. So that's just up to your discretion. If you want to mess with that stuff, you can. Otherwise, it won't matter what you pick. Again, there's going to be a couple instances in the course of this where that might be a thing, and we'll bring that up as it comes on. Arcade Archives games are not online enabled, so don't go buying these thinking you can play Sunset Riders with your friends or something, because you can't. That's not what this is about. This is just an $8 standalone thing that you can play by yourself or locally. You know what I mean? Or they have a lot of options for that, but that's another story. But yeah, there's so many ways to play local depending on the arcade cabinet and stuff like that. So you can
absolutely
do that. Also, if you don't remember the names of all these, don't worry. We're going to put all the names of our recommendations that we mentioned today in the description of this podcast. So you'll have a handy dandy list.
Just to keep it easy for everybody.
Yes. So let's start with Konami, shall we? Well, I think we got 6. I think we got 6 each from each company. So we have 18 games altogether here we're going to recommend.
Yes. Yeah, okay. We really tried to like keep this clean. So yeah, I'll kick it off. Circus Charlie is a pretty easy to pick up game. It's hard to master. Essentially, you're doing circus tricks across these stages. I really enjoyed this one. It's pretty straightforward. There's meaningful score play, and it's just a fun little game to just pick up and play.
I think this game is fantastic. Circus Charlie is great. The different circus feats you can do. You're doing the leaping through the flaming hoop with the lion. You're doing a high wire balancing act. There's a trapeze thing, which I am terrible at, but
it's hard, but yeah.
Maybe someone, but it's so much fun. There's a lot of fun to be had here. Circus Charlie, absolute recommendation. Probably, would you say it's the best of Konami's like pre-Gradius stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I kind of think it is. So, Circus Charlie, absolute recommendation. The next one I want to talk about here is Life Force. Life Force is a shmup. It's actually the sequel to Gradius. Yes, Gradius 2 is not the sequel to Gradius. It is Life Force. And then Gradius 2 is a sequel to Life Force. It's true. I think this game is fantastic if you don't know anything about shmups, because it keeps it moving, like literally. The game is pretty fast paced, and it's not that sort of, you ever play most shmups go at that sort of leisurely scroll. This is actually a lot faster than most of those. It makes it sound like it would be more difficult, but it's actually not. It's a very brisk pace that's fun.
It's fun, and there's plenty of space to react to incoming obstacles. Like, as many obstacles as there are, it's not like unfair, right?
Not at all. And the power-ups just sort of exist. They are littered all over the screen. You just pick them up and go. You don't have to worry about what you're getting or like whatever. I mean, you can a little bit if you want to, but just pick up everything. No, or, should I get this? Should I get that? No, just pick them all up and go. It's great.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about managing like pickups.
It features a very funny 80s style synthesizer voice. Like, Konami was really into this at the time. They put it in all their arcade boards, this sort of voice modulator thing. It is made of extensive use here in Life Force. It's pretty funny.
I think it's cool though, because it gets you into like the universe, right? They tried to establish this sort of like biological sort of motif, and I like these voices.
Yeah. Okay. Remember what I was saying earlier about picking Japanese, North American? This is one instance where it does matter, and I'm going to try to make this as succinct as possible. I'm sorry if this is confusing, but here we go. When you load the game, you're going to be presented with 3 options: Salamander, North American Life Force, and Japanese Life Force. So without getting too complicated, Salamander is the original Japanese name of Life Force before it came to North America. Okay?
Yes.
I would recommend that you play Salamander or North America Life Force. Okay? If you're a more experienced person and you've played stuff like Gradius and you're like familiar with that power system, go ahead and try Japanese Life Force, because that uses the same power-up system. Otherwise, I recommend you stick to Salamander or North American Life Force. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, but basically, Life Force, the Japanese version, is it's harder. It's harder to recover if you lose a life. So largely, we would suggest sticking with the other 2.
Yeah. So, this is one of your favorites, huh? Block Hole.
Oh, baby, Block Hole. Let's go. This is a vertically scrolling puzzle game that you play with one button. Essentially, the goal is to fill in rectangles by shooting blocks. And then, so once you make a rectangle, it disappears. Later stages could be surprisingly challenging as you figure out how to deal with these incoming blocks, as you fill in their block holes, right?
Ooh, baby.
Baby, winky face.
So what is this game? Is this game rated E for everyone?
It is.
It shouldn't be. Ooh, baby.
Oh.
Block Hole. To me, this is the best kind of score play because it reveals itself to you naturally through regular gameplay, because there's no hidden bullshit. There's no trickster shit. You're just filling in these big blocks and making them full and trying to connect some to others and stuff and doing like these. As you play the game, it shows you that scored me a lot of points. It's very natural in a way that other games may not always be. So I really appreciate it for that. And it makes it great for beginners. The Japanese version of Block Hole is called Korth. It has a few different, I don't know if the difficulty's easier. It might, but try Korth or Block Hole if you buy this and see which one you like more.
There's some subtle presentation differences between the 2 versions as well. That's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. I think Korth has like a opening scrolling thing or whatever. Anyway, Sunset Riders. I think a lot of people have heard of Sunset Riders, but have you played Sunset Riders? Because boy, I tell you, if you haven't, you really, really should.
Dude, it's such a legendary game, man. One kind of funny point is that you may or may not know that Konami actually reused the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hardware and engine to make other games, and this is one of them.
Yeah, Sunset Riders is definitely one of them. You can tell even when you look at the top of the screen, it's the same like font and like the 4 sections of 4 players. You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah, it's the
exact
same sections.
Same
Absolutely. And the sound, the way the game sounds musically, it's like got the same instrumentation too.
There's something about the way the Ninja Turtles board also modulates voices. That like the voices in the game, they're very high treble and like just so hearable over the din of the arcade. that they're like you
The
could
den.
yeah, like I mean that's how you had to modulate it so you could hear it all over everything else because the arcade is
Yeah.
loud. Anyway, Sunset Riders, it's a run and gun, right? It's a cowboy run and gun. It is excellent. It's very approachable. It's super fun. Like I said, very funny voice clips, very memorable lines, great sound effects, maybe slightly racist, but it was 1991, so it's okay, right?
It's so of the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you'll get your you'll have some stereotypes. It's still good. We cannot cancel Sunset Riders. I am recommending it to everybody.
Yeah, it's a good time solo or with your friends. Yeah, share the experience of Sunset Riders with everybody.
Yep. Okay, Lightning Fighters. This is another shmup that we're recommending to you. It doesn't seem that special on the surface, but it reveals itself to be very smooth playing, just an excellently planned game. This is like peak confidence, workman-like, like professional Konami game. Like I think this is from 1990, 89 or 90. Like that peak Konami, you're getting it here.
Yeah, what really stands out to me about Lightning Fighters is the presentation. It's full of spectacle even from the get-go. There's like crashing waves like beneath you. Even as you get the Arcade Archives version, there's like a giant fiery serpent on it too. It's very vibrant. It's such a colorful game, right?
It's really cool. Just a great shmup. There isn't a whole lot to say like super pizzazzy things about it on the surface. It's just one of those things that you play where it's just like, oh, this is really cool. This is just top-notch stuff, you know?
It really is, yeah.
Last Konami game on this list, Mr. Goemon. You may have heard of the Mystical Ninja series on like SNES or N64. This is that. This is the first game in that series, although it doesn't play anything like those. So if you're a fan of those, don't go buying Mr. Goemon thinking you're going to get some hidden gem that you never played before. This is an arcade game from 1986, so it's markedly different, but it is a hidden gem in its own right.
It is, absolutely. And what stands out about it is that it's simple platforming action that isn't overwhelming, right? It's pretty easy to understand, traverse sort of like platforms, and you have a lot of incoming enemies, but they're not overly punishing, right?
Yeah, they're not. They can kind of latch onto you if you've ever played Kung Fu or Kung Fu Master. They sort of latch onto you and leech your life. Do you have a life bar? I don't remember. I'm sorry. It's been a while, but
I don't believe you do.
Anyway, but like it's very forgiving. It's not like one guy's gonna poke you real fast with one pixel and you die or something. It's really fun. It's just fun watching Goemon whack everybody with this pipe and then like smoke it at the end of the level. It's just
that's right. Yeah,
there's something satisfying. It's rated E10 plus, kids, because he smokes that pipe.
That'll do it.
Yes, but no, it's great. So anyway, those are the 6 Konami games we recommend. To recap, Circus Charlie, Life Force, Block Hole, Sunset Riders, Lightning Fighters, Mr. Goemon. There's a couple on here we wanted to warn you against real quick that you may recognize, but you should not buy on Arcade Archives unless you're crazy like us. One of them is Gradius 3. You've heard me talk about this game. It's one of my favorite shmups of all time. It might be my favorite shmup soundtrack of all time. That's not, something from Taito. This is too frustrating an experience for the uninitiated. If you're a beginner, as we are talking to today, I cannot in my right mind recommend this to beginners. I can't.
It's not beginner friendly whatsoever. There's too much stuff on screen, and you also can't continue. That's like the big sticking point. So, it's pretty overwhelming. If you might remember the Super Nintendo port, which is a lot easier than the arcade version. So, in general speaking, unless you're crazy, you probably don't want to be picking this up lickety split.
No, you don't want to do that. Also, you're going to see Contra games on here. I think Contra and Super Contra are on Arcade Archives. If you've never played the arcade versions of Contra, most people are familiar with the NES ones. This is one instance in my life my arcade elitism is defeated because the NES versions are better. You're better off playing Contra at home. Trust me. Like, it's not that there's anything wrong with the arcade versions. I actually do like them. It's just, it's not a better experience because a lot of people may think, oh, let's play the real arcade game. This is a case where that's not, you don't want to do that.
The NES games are expanded and rebalanced, and you even play them at birthday parties with this guy around.
Wow, we're really gonna go there? Jeez, you're cutting into deep fine time lore there. What if they haven't heard the other episodes? That's okay. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Irem. We got 6 Irem games for you. One of them, I'm sure most people have heard of, but just in case you haven't, we highly recommend you play Moon Patrol.
Yeah, Moon Patrol is so cool. It's a classic with some decidedly early 80s sci-fi motifs. You can check out those giant sort of, what do you want to call them? Spherical, like, tall buildings in the backgrounds. I don't know if those have a name.
The domed, the 70 sci-fi, holdover 70 sci-fi domed buildings. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like 70s sci-fi book as fuck. Like
it really is. Even the cabinet is, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, your goal in this game is to reach the destination, right? You're driving a vehicle, you're dodging incoming fire, enemies, and other obstacles. But the game is actually a single button game, so you press the button once and you fire up and you fire like right. So it's pretty fundamentally straightforward from that angle. And then
I think I would hate this game if you had to fire up and right. I mean, that would be terrible.
God, that's a different ball game.
It's simplified for a reason. This Moon Patrol is a stone cold classic. Absolutely. It has this very satisfying jump because you're on the moon. You're patrolling the moon. I always used to joke with a mutual friend of ours when he was playing the first Mass Effect game. They was playing Moon Patrol, like when you do those random like things on a planet or something, just driving through craters or whatever. He didn't seem to appreciate this. Anyway,
oh man,
it has very satisfying jump and dodge gameplay that's just honestly really hard to beat. Moon Patrol is great.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about In the Hunt. We recommend In the Hunt because it's a horizontal shmup where you're a submarine, so you're underwater. But here's the kicker about In the Hunt. Almost every shmup is auto-scrolling. This is not. You move at your own pace in the Hunt. And there's something really fun about that. You get to really control the pace and like be careful because you're underwater, you're a submarine. You're shooting these missiles and you kind of have to be careful going through. You have a life meter, so you're not a one-hit wonder like other shmups. It's very forgiving and very cool in the Hunt.
It's super cool. Oh, absolutely. And it's unique too. These developers of In the Hunt, they actually went on to make Metal Slug, which you may have heard of.
You may have heard of Metal Slug, yeah.
Yeah, you can tell too, just from the effects, it's really ornate, right? These explosions are super detailed. And it's just a lavishly made game, and it holds up very well visually.
Yeah, this was always one of my favorites as a kid going to the arcade. I always, In the Hunt was like, God, I love. Did you ever play the PS1 port as an aside? Did you ever?
I did not.
Okay, I've never played it either. I don't know how if it gets butchered or whatever. Anyway, now we can play the real In the Hunt in the home.
Okay. You're just waiting for that one, weren't you? In your sort of makeshift sofa submarine or whatever, right? It's like, what is he doing? Oh, he's in a submarine. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I'm
in a submarine. Oh God, I'm gonna die. I should stop doing that. Okay, enough silly shit. Enough, okay? This is a very serious thing. We're talking to Arcade Archives versions right now, and we're going to tell them about Kid Niki. One of my personal favorites. If you are of the correct age to remember the NES version of Kid Niki, it was kind of popular back in its day. This version will blow you away. The original arcade, that NES version's good. This original arcade version's better. It's so well balanced. It's tough, but fair action platforming. Like, it's just great music, and you have a fun little weapon there. You spin your what is it? It doesn't even look like a sword. What is that thing, Kid Niki? I've never actually thought about it, but
I thought it was kind of like you put me on the spot. I don't know my Japanese swords very well off the top of my head, but I thought it was a katana, but maybe it's too short to be a katana.
I don't know. Anyway, but like
we're exposing ourselves.
Tough, tough but fair. One of the best games of the late 80s action ninja craze, which was a thing, I promise. If you weren't alive at this time, I'm telling you this was a thing. This is one of the top ones.
in general, I think this game is really rewarding too. It's relatively straightforward, and the checkpoints are super fair. If you're taken out, you're not taken back too far. You can always continue relatively close to where you left off.
Another ninja game, though, we have on the docket here is called Ninja Spirit. It's, if you've ever played Ninja Gaiden before, you could say it's similar to it, but not really. You can jump really high for one. I'm not sure why you can jump that high, but you can.
He's a ninja.
It's like, well, yeah, but it's like Virtua Fighter jumps. It's like, it's like crazy jumps. Very cool power-ups. You can get all sorts of like clones of yourself to help you out. Like cool multi-directional like action where they're using the ninja stars or the sword or the sickle or whatever. It's just like Ninja Spirit. Just again, another cool game in the ninja canon.
The ninja canon.
What was Irem with the ninja games, huh?
This one's cool though. I really like the way it has this sort of like, I don't want to say haunting, but it sort of has this interesting atmosphere, just the way it's all put together. It's a little more serious than Kid Niki, as you could probably imagine.
Yeah, Kid Niki is like very chibi and cute, and Ninja Spirit is very, PG-13 with it. So
that's a way of putting it.
We have another shmup here for you. It's called X Multiply. This is a very cool game. It's creepy, and it has this creepy and cool alien vibe. Perhaps you've heard of R-Type. That's Irem's most well-known shmup. You could say this isn't too different. They're from the same time period. And while X Multiply is not as famous, I think it is better than R-Type. I think this is like their ultimate shmup.
It's not as intimidating as R-Type in some ways, because R-Type object placement and obstacle placement is really methodical. You can like die really quick. But this game is a bit more well-balanced than that. And just presentationally, it'll really stick with you. Even when you like start a game, it's got like this sort of like very poignant sort of intro melody. And the whole audio atmosphere of this game, it's like crazy, dog.
Oh, it's something. Even if anything, you know how much I love the continue countdown too. It has that like crazy sound to it. It's not even music. It's just like alien jibber jabber. I don't know. It's something. Yeah,
the whole game is alien jibber jabber.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff. X Multiply, highly recommended. One more here, and this is probably for more advanced players. So if you're a beginner, this may be a little too tough for you. If you are used to playing arcade games, we would recommend you play something called Heroic Episode. That's its English name that was put up here on Arcade Archives, because this game ever actually came to America. I don't know what its Japanese name is off the top of my head, but if you could read kanji, you will see it. It's plastered across the screen when you load it up.
Yes, you will.
I really love this game. It's I don't know. You played it more recently than me, because I don't think you had really played it much before.
I had not. So I did play it recently. Essentially, it's a vertical scrolling game in which you can fire in 8 directions. It's sort of kind of like Commando or like Ikari Warriors, if you've heard of those games. And this game is it's cool in the sense that it feels empowering and simple at the same time, especially with that secondary fire. It sort of kind of looks like it's not like a grenade, right? I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like a projectile of some kind.
It's not a grenade. I could not tell you.
Yeah, this game sort of has an interesting sort of motif to it, in that you're actually alternating between being on land and in the air between stages, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, you get some variety of gameplay. I love that voice sample when you kill that first boss. He's like, or something like he's like very, I can't even imitate it. Heroic Episode. So our 6 Irem recommendations: Moon Patrol, In the Hunt, In Your House, Kid Niki, Ninja Spirit, X Multiply, and Heroic Episode. So one more section here. We're going to tell you about 6 Namco games we really enjoy. You probably
might know that company.
you may have heard of them. Maybe. So the first one we want to talk about is called Libble Rabble. This never came out here in America. It's a little known game. It's by the creator of Pac-Man, Toru Iwatani. and he made Libble Rabble.
It's a tongue twister, right? Yeah, I was like thinking about it.
I keep wanting to say Ribble Rabble. You know what I mean?
That's sort of a phrase to us, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
was that the intention? Maybe that was.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, let's not think about that right now. So if you don't know, Midway was Namco's arcade distributor at the time. That's why if you see an old Pac-Man cabinet, you'll see Midway on it and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So they were deciding when they made Libble Rabble and they sent it to Midway office, they were like, I don't think so, dog. And they like did not publish it here.
I can't blame them though, right? Can you really blame them for that?
No, I can't, because what you do in this game, God, I'm already having a hard time describing it. You have two cursors, two line makers, and you draw boxes or whatever other kind of shapes you want on the screen to trap your enemies in there. And the more you trap, the more the point totals you get, and you can grow flowers for some reason. If I'm making this sound really complicated, it's actually not. The gameplay is very simple. That's why we're recommending Libble Rabble. It's actually very simple to play.
Yeah, it's super easy to play. It just feels nice with like moving the two characters with both sticks.
Yes, I probably should have said that. It's a twin stick game. There's no buttons. So you're just using, in this case, your two analog sticks to move independently your two cursors around to make shapes. It's just really fun. The audio design is incredible, and it's weird and different and fun. That's why we want you to play Libble Rabble. It's unconventional, so I would imagine not everybody will be into this, but I really implore everybody to try games like this. If I'm going to recommend stuff, these are the kind of things that I think, like, you know, it's a very unique experience. I just think it should be played.
It's a unique experience and not one that has been made readily available until now, so it's a special opportunity to experience some of Namco's history.
Yes, especially, you know, like I said, it didn't come out here. One game we cannot ever do a Namco section on without recommending is Mappy. You may have heard of Mappy. It's one of the more popular ones, and in my opinion, one of the best motifs of all time. So, Mappy is a mouse being chased by cats, and Mappy is also a cop, a cab except for Mappy, who is trying to get back the stolen goods from the literal cat burglars. They are literally cats. So it's like cat and mouse and cops and robbers at the exact same time. That is great. I mean, just based on that, it's an all-timer.
Yeah, it's a striking motif for sure. Absolutely. And the objective of picking up valuable goods is pretty straightforward. But it's fun to just dodge like the cats, right? You can open up doors that'll like send sonic waves to like push them away.
That doesn't make any sense, by the way. I don't even know why you could do that, but you can.
Yeah, these doors are like apparently like loaded with something. I don't know what. And you can jump on the floors, like bounce away. So later levels let you like ring bells that fall down because that's what bells do. And altogether, it's pretty easy to pick up. And again, it's hard to master on later levels, but man, it's always a good time.
If you buy Mappy and it doesn't jive with you right away, don't be discouraged. I sucked at Mappy until like Wii Virtual Console in like 2009. I think that's when I finally was like, oh, I understand how to play this game. So you may be like me where it's like, man, this just seems like not great and just a little too difficult. Stick with it. I implore you, because I did, and I came out the other side. I came out the other side of Mappy land.
You just had to open some sonic doors along the way, right?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, however that works. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't really know how that works, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it at all. They didn't, so you shouldn't.
They did not worry about it.
New Rally X. Absolute man. I don't know if it might be my favorite Namco game of, I would say, the first half of the 80s, maybe, because
it deserves it though, right? It's super cool.
So it's a maze game. Like, you could say it's somewhat similar to Pac-Man, but it's not. Like, you're a car and it's a top-down view and you're driving through sort of a maze like thing to collect stuff, but it doesn't play like that at all. There's other cars chasing you, so you can smoke screen them. You have a fuel meter, so you don't want to run out of fuel. Don't do too many smoke screens, but you want to have enough time. Oh my god, it's so sad when you run out of fuel and you're just like putting along.
You're so slow.
It's so slow. Oh my god, it's so sad. You're like a sitting duck. Anyway, but it has really fun score play. It has, just as a bit of a trivia thing, it has the first BGM, background game music, in Namco history, I think.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, that's or one of the first ever, really. It's a very memorable tune that plays.
It is a memorable tune. And one thing I'd like to point out is that there's actually a map on the side as you're playing. So the objectives are always clear, right? You're never like lost moving around this maze because unlike Pac-Man, you pretty much see what's around you, right? But this map makes it very obvious where the enemy cars are and where the pickups are. I really appreciate that because I get lost in everything. So that's super cool to me.
Yeah, even though you move pretty briskly, so you could like move past something you're supposed to pick up, like, and it's like, oh wait, the radar says it's kind of over a little bit more to the right, or whatever.
You could double back around. Yep.
Yeah, but you don't want to stare at that radar too long because you might run into a car or a big rock or some other obstacle.
Oh yeah, the rock. I feel like an ass when I accidentally drive into a rock. Oh my god.
I feel so stupid. No. But yeah, New Rally X is an absolute classic, one of my favorite Namco games of all time, really. Just unbeatable. Gotta play it. Another one of my favorites, probably for totally different reasons, is something called Rolling Thunder. This is a run and gun that has this like 1960s James Bond motif of sorts.
Oh yeah.
If you will. These hooded goons pop in and out of doors, and there's like slick spy movie music. It gives it this like unforgettable vibe. If you've ever seen it or heard it at the arcade, you've never one look of the Rolling Thunder and you will never forget it, I guess.
Yeah, certainly not. Especially you won't forget those voice samples when you shoot those hooded goons either, because they're like, ah.
It's pretty good. It has a very crazy sound when you die too. It's like I don't know. It's like really weird.
I think you like blink colors and stuff. But yeah, this game is empowering. It's pretty straightforward. You do have a gun. At certain points, you can go into doors, and I guess they have like machine guns sometimes. I don't know why they would just be indoors. But
this just waiting in this store closet. Here's a machine gun.
Yeah, it's not risky or dangerous. You could just like shoot de whoop. Oh, I got a machine gun now. It's like okay, but
this is way more approachable than other games in the genre, because it has some of the same trappings. If you get shot, you die. If you get punched or something, you can take a couple more hits. But I generally recommend Rolling Thunder, everybody, because, like I said, the motif is so cool, and it doesn't overwhelm you at first. Something like Contra really expects you to know what you're doing like right off the bat, or you're screwed.
Oh my god, yeah.
This is a little more gradual, even though it's tough. You know exactly, you have a feel for the mechanics right away, whereas you don't sometimes in other games, like Metal Slug or something, which is fine. It's just that like this is so dead simple that makes it very easy to recommend.
I would also say it's simple to read too. There's not too much crazy like level obstacles going on. It's relatively flat.
Yes. So we got to talk about Super Pac-Man. Now, if you listen to this show regularly, you've probably heard our Pac-Man Museum Plus episode where we talked seemingly a lot of shit about Super Pac-Man, but really we were more confused than anything.
That's the best way of putting it.
And so we want to pass that confusion on to everybody else. I genuinely recommend that everybody plays Super Pac-Man. I do. Like, Vince making a face at me, but I really do. We debated whether or not to include it here, but because it's so different from the original, I just think anybody would get a kick out of it. If you've never played it before and everyone's familiar with Pac-Man, you're going to see Super Pac-Man and go, what the fuck is this? You know, like you're going to be either blown away, bewildered, confused, maybe all three, because I was.
All three at once. Because, yo, dog, I heard you like keys.
Keys are everywhere. Doors are everywhere. It doesn't even... I don't even actually want to explain what the gameplay is in Super Pac-Man. I honestly think it's best if you see it for yourself. It's like the Matrix. You have to be shown what the Matrix is. You can't be told. Yeah, you can't be told. You gotta see it for yourself.
You can't be told what Super Pac-Man is. You have to experience it for yourself.
If the Wachowskis ever make a Super Pac-Man movie, I think they what am I saying? What I have no end to that sentence. Of course we're gonna watch it. But no,
in the theater.
The only thing I'll say about Super Pac-Man is it is actually somewhat unintuitive to pick up at first, which is sort of a problem if you're putting quarters in an arcade machine. It's like, well, that sucked. But in the comfort of your own home for $7.99, I think you could do a lot worse. You will eventually be rewarded with a fun and weird experience if you give it a chance.
Yeah, it has a bit of a learning curve, right? But I think once you're accustomed to how like the logic works, it's pretty fun. Like it took us a number of tries if you've listened to the Pac-Man Museum pod, but and it's definitely weird. But at the same time, I think there's actually quite a bit of empowerment in this game. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes. So one more here, our final game of this pod, Legend of Valkyrie. A word of warning. Just because it's important. This game is only in Japanese. It didn't come out here in America initially, and there had never been any official English translation on any platform, any port of it, anything. So if you play this game, if you buy this game on Arcade Archives, you're only going to get a Japanese version because that's all there is. Yep. Usually I wouldn't say this is a problem, but in this case, you're going to be it's a top-down action adventure game, so you're going to be going to shops and buying things. You're going to be seeing story pieces. People are going to be talking to you. Yeah. So if missing that kind of stuff isn't something that's okay with you, and I totally understand if it isn't, because if you can't read Japanese, you won't know what's happening here. Then you can go ahead and skip this one. But if you're more adventurous, you don't mind the Japanese text, and you'll figure it out on the fly, or you're used to doing that sort of thing from playing imports, I absolutely recommend playing Legend of Valkyrie.
It's definitely worth experiencing, even if you can't read the language, just because of how straightforward and simple the action is, right? It's just kind of fun controlling Valkyrie and shooting projectiles at incoming enemies. And there's a nice sort of whimsy to this game. It's super bright and colorful. And in general speaking, like, I don't actually know what's going on because I can't read the language, but I have a really good time with this every single time. It's a special rarity, and it's not ported very often, like, at all.
Nope, it is sure not. I think I first played it on MAME or something. I don't even think I know it's on a Namco Museum, right? 5, 4,
yeah, on
5
on PlayStation,
PlayStation. But I mean, I didn't have that one, so. But yeah, I that's what Vin said is the reason why I recommended it. It's such a cool game to play, so easy. The gameplay is dead simple. It's fun. Jump button and attack button, top down. It's great. You know what I mean? It's just that you can't really read it if you don't know Japanese. So again, if that's really a deal breaker for you, I get it. For anyone else though, this is probably the most recommendable game on the Namco list here.
Yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, special is right. So to recap real quick, Libble Rabble, Mappy, New Rally X, Rolling Thunder, Super Pac-Man, and The Legend of Valkyrie. Those are the 6 Namco games you recommend. There's a couple things here that we want to warn you against real quick. Oh boy. So there's a classic, quote unquote, Namco game called Tower of Jiraga. You will see this, all the air quotes in the world. You will see this spammed everywhere. You'll see it referenced in so many of their games. Namco always positions this as like their adventure game classic. We're here to tell you that it's not. This game sucks.
Yeah, it's super funny. Like we've been trying to figure out for the past I don't even know how long as to why Namco keeps like spamming references to this game. We can't figure it out.
There's an entire like Tower of Jiraga level in Baten Kaitos. Like, it's insane how
It
much
plays the song, I think.
Yeah, and it plays the song. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
You just had your head in your hands as you were playing it.
Oh my god. This is 20 years ago now, and I still remember like when that popped up. Oh, it's not a very good game. It, like I said, we're only mentioning it here because you may have heard the name before. We both strongly recommend against Tower of
Unless
Jiraga.
you like, if you like to read like a list of steps on like a walkthrough as you're playing a video game, maybe, but
I don't. Another one we're going to recommend against is Pac-Land. If you've heard our Pac-Man Museum Plus episode, you will know that we hate this cursed abomination of a game, but I don't really want to go into it again. Just steer clear. Trust me.
that would be wise.
Yeah. So I guess just to wrap up here, if you try just a few games mentioned here today, and you not only enjoyed them, but also enjoyed getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, then I say the next step for you is to just get on that digital store of your choice and go nuts. Like we said, there are literally hundreds of Arcade Archives games here just like waiting to be played. You never know what kind of hidden treasure, what kind of cool games, what kind of anything you could find on there. So just go pick a few that you think look cool. Just like when we were kids and we look at the boxes on the shelf, it's like, oh, this game looks cool because you like the box. Literally just go do that. And look, worst that happens, if you don't like it, oh no, you're out $8. Not that that's insignificant, but you know what I mean. It's not a huge investment. If you don't like it, oh well, it was $8, you move on. I bought plenty of games on Arcade Archives just like, I didn't like that one very much, but I've bought so many just on faith alone and have been rewarded so many times. So that's what I would say to you. If you're a beginner, you play some of these that we suggest today, you want to take the next step, just go on your own and buy what you think looks good.
Yeah, and the listings on your shop of choice are always comprehensive. They give a thorough explanation as like what the game is about, right? So you kind of feel your way through things that way too. And we feel the $7.99 like price point is totally worth it, especially given that, you know, there's a lot of other things flooding our shops nowadays that are more than that, and they don't quite have the panache or the sort of design sensibilities of these classics, right?
Yep.
And interesting to me is that this price point has never actually gone up, huh?
No, they've been $7.99 since when did we start? 2015?
Yep.
14 maybe? Like it's been a while, and they've been $7.99 this whole time, which is great. Honestly, it's such a steal to pay $7.99 for In the Hunt, or you know what I mean? It's just incredible that I can play Libble Rabble for $7.99. That's crazy. All I want.
Yeah, you don't have to be out of a quarter or whatever, right? You can get on your submarine couch. I mean, what? And play all the In the Hunt you want.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Okay, I think that's about it. We have said all we need to say. Again, all the games we listed today will be in the description of this podcast. If you want to check them out, we highly recommend you do so. So catch you next time, guys. Bye.
Thank you.